like an open floor plan, and they had like a half wall between him and this guy. And every time he woke up, the guy was like just staring at him and also like getting closer.
What?
I was like, okay, dude.
You
Like,
just wanna make sure-
My name's Monish, and I'm your main host. Welcome to Real Talk. Who are you? What do you do? What's your spiel?
Jeez. I don't know. Let's see.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So
High pressure.
Full name is Andrea Wien. And for the past 10 years or so, I've been a writer.
If you didn't catch it the first time, that's our guest, Andrea Wien.
So I published a book in January all about the gap year, which is the year between high school and college. So the book is a gap year guide for parents, and it's basically a manifesto to convince parents to let their kids go live a little.
Traveling is fun, but traveling is a double-edged sword. There's international danger, there's losing all your money on airline travel, there's spiders.
And there's a spider like the size of a small dinner plate.
And then there's this question. Why are so many full-time travelers unhappy? Andrea Wien joins us in the studio, and by studio I mean ghetto Skype call, to deconstruct traveling effectively, traveling on the cheap, and planning trips where you're a rookie, not only so you have fun, but so you don't get yourself killed.
We went on a trip, actually, speaking of spiders. So my husband actually, in our wedding vows, said he would take care of everything except the spiders. Those were on me. So the last weekend we were in Australia, we went on this like romantic getaway to southern Australia.
Yeah.
We rented this adorable little like cabin in the woods and no cell phone service, like the whole thing. And I get out of the bathroom and I turn around to walk into where we're supposed to be sleeping in the bedroom. And there's a spider like the size of a small dinner plate.
And then
I'm
your
like,
husband runs away.
No, well, this is my dilemma. So I'm like, do I tell him that there's this massive spider? Do I like try to kill it silently, which is impossible. Like you can't kill a spider that large by yourself. And so I'm like, okay, if I tell him like we're not going to sleep in this bedroom, like I know it already, even if the spider's dead. So I end up telling him. Sure enough, we spent like the next 2 nights of this romantic getaway, like sleeping on the futon in the living room.
Wow, that's nuts.
He's gonna love that I told that story too.
Recently, was this yesterday, Monish?
I know exactly what you're gonna tell you.
Okay,
asshole.
so I'm sitting at my desk, right where I'm sitting right now, doing some work, and my worst nightmare happens right in front of me. A spider repels from the ceiling slowly, right in front of my eyes, not an inch from my eyes. So and then I let it hit the ground after I freak out and run through my adrenaline rush really quickly. I kill it, and I text Monish, holy shit, my worst nightmare happened. A spider just repelled from my ceiling. And then his response is like, oh, yeah, because Monish earlier this summer was using my room. He was staying down here in Champaign, and he would podcast and record from my room because his internet at the apartment he was staying at was not good. So his response is, oh, yeah, I knew there was a spider in your room. Forgot to tell you.
Like you only have one though, by the way. Like there's only one spider like kicking it. He has friends. He has friends.
Yeah.
Jesus.
You know, so apparently it was my moral obligation to tell Kevin that there was a small spider. I completely I freaked out. I cried. I called my mom. Whatever. And then I forgot. I've never forgotten about a spider so hard in my life. I never told Kevin, and the same spider.
Forget about a spider.
Yeah.
I mean, well, if you move to Australia, suddenly the spiders anywhere in the U.S., you're like, no, these are chill. I'm good.
That is not. I do not want to go to Australia after you said that. That is anti-Australia propaganda.
Check that off the box. Not.
Yeah.
All right, so spiders in Australia, check. Now, Andrew's book, Gap to Great, is about gap years, which is basically like a year off school where you travel, explore yourself, and you find your spirit animal, right? So most people, though, who do this gap year, do it right after high school.
Yeah, I mean, people do gap years anytime, but yeah, the book is really targeted towards like after high school, before you have to decide what you want to do in college.
Because it makes sense. I feel like everyone rushes straight into the college funnel, and it makes sense that like right after high school, you wait a year to just figure out your entire life. Because in high school, you don't know who you are. Right, you have no conception.
You haven't even done your own laundry.
Yeah,
I mean, like, let's
yeah, exactly.
They're like, hey, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? You're like, how do I do whites?
Yeah, yeah. If you haven't done your own laundry, you're not a real human being. You shouldn't be allowed to vote. You can't make your own decisions. Is that So I think going on a year after high school, something I did not do. I'm totally just preaching to this choir as if I did it. No, but I'm saying, going after a year, just traveling, you come back to college like a better, fully formed human being than if you just went straight from high school to college, right?
Totally. Yeah, 100%. So that's
Plus, you get to be the person that took a gap year after high school, so everyone in college is going to think you're really interesting because you're going to have stories about the laundry you did and like how you learned how to do taxes and stuff like that.
Yeah. You can be the most boring.
Basically, you learned how to do everything in life through osmosis just from taking a year off.
Yeah, you can be the most boring guy in the world. You can be like Joe Schmo, have a tie, be an accountant, work at like a firm, and you take a gap year. Suddenly, you're the most interesting guy. You're running all the party scene in college. Is amazing. So
I've already been convinced. So.
Yeah.
Like podcast wrapped. Cool story.
Yeah, we're done. Gap years are cool, but the trick is doing it without having to live in a styrofoam box or conversely a Four Seasons hotel, right? Kevin has an aunt, okay? So she's a retired flight attendant, which gets him incredible access to free airline tickets, which is nuts.
Since then, I've been really capitalizing on that for the past 2 or so years. So in the past 2 years, I've done way more traveling than I've done in the previous 18.
That's like a jackpot. That's a jackpot situation that you fell into, my friend.
Yeah. Well, so Kevin is lucky, right? He has an awesome connect, right? He knows people, then get him free flights. But for the rest of us, for the less privileged of us, right? How do you travel without going absolutely shithouse broke, right? Because I'm planning a trip right after college. It's going to be a couple weeks. Hopefully, Kevin joins, my girlfriend joins. And whatever, but I guess what does it take to?
I'm not third wheeling this.
Yeah.
He's like our son. We're just gonna pack him along.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll pack him in the bag, take him out of the luggage. Yeah, that would be cool. But no, I mean, how would you go about traveling in a way that's like cost effective? And what are the basic things you can do because to be completely honest with you, other than like signing up for the right credit card, like it's very vague to me. Right?
Yeah. I mean, there are like a lot of those things and plenty of people out there that are doing those types of, sign up for X credit cards and get so many points and all those types of things. I'm obsessed with airline miles. So there's that, but I've never been like so obsessed that I'm doing all the credit card signups.
Yeah,
I have one main credit card that I just use for everything and then, use those points, which is nice. But I think in general, if you can plan earlier, which I'm really, really bad at this. So take that with a grain of salt.
Join the club. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So I think, the earlier the better that you can get some deals and lock that stuff in is generally, I know that there's all these things out there like the best times to buy flights are on Tuesday or, after this or whatever. And I've never really seen a lot of differentiation in that. It's like kind of hit or miss in a big way, but it seems to be that the earlier 6 weeks is kind of like the sweet spot, 6 to 8 weeks. That's kind of when flights are generally at their least expensive. You get any closer to like 4 weeks, 2 weeks, and they skyrocket pretty high.
What about 2 days, 1 day? 2 hours.
2 days, you can
3
get
minutes.
lucky sometimes.
Yeah,
3 minutes. Yeah.
3 minutes.
I mean, then there's the opportunity, if you have the opportunity to go stand by and check the airlines because they're all different. But, if you do have that flexibility to be able to just go last minute and kind of not care about connections or flight times or any of that stuff, you can find good deals that way too.
Good deals. Awesome. But where should you stay?
I mean, I think in, right after college, I have at 30 a little bit higher standards now than I did when I was younger. So
you're staying in mansions, right? Like, that's what's going on.
I'll just sleep in the middle of floors anywhere. Like give me a good couch. Like that's all good. Now I'm like, maybe some warm showers would be nice.
Some basic running water would be awesome.
Yeah. Like not spiders all over the wall. That's
yeah.
So
I don't like there's a bird's nest in my room also. Beautiful.
Living in a tree
but I
cabin.
think there's a lot of hostels, like hostels are great options. And I think do your due diligence. And now that with the internet, it's so easy to kind of check reviews and things like that. I think there's Hostel World is one of them. I could be mistaken on the exact name, but we can link to it in the show notes. But any of the hostels, like we stayed in one recently where were we? Somewhere, I think maybe New Zealand. And it was like staying in a hotel. We had our own room and it was like $20 a night. So I think hostels are still probably the best way. There's couch surfing. So are you guys familiar with that?
I am, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So couch surfing, basically you're just staying with random people, which can go good or bad, right? Depends on the situation.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah.
Maybe met those situations out a little bit more.
Have you personally had a bad experience with couch surfing? Has someone
I haven't. Okay. And I don't know many people that have. So I think for the most part, those couch surfing experiences are pretty okay.
No one's like kidnapped you or anything.
One like pretty ridiculous one, my guy friend. But yeah, it was, he basically woke up and like just saw the guy. It was like an open floor plan and they had like a half wall between him and this guy. And every time he woke up, the guy was like just staring at him and also like getting closer.
What?
I was like, okay, dude. Like, yeah. So, there's that. But I think those situations, and obviously Airbnb makes it easy. And in other places that aren't America, Airbnb is pretty affordable.
Wait, did your friend how did he handle that?
He left immediately. Yeah, it was really creepy.
Oh my God, he couch surfed with a ghost. Holy shit.
I don't want to get murdered today. So I'm gonna go to the Motel 6 actually.
Yeah. So if you're a beginner, traveling can be scary. But where do you go if you literally have no idea what you're doing? Right now, I'm in the phase of planning my 8-week travel trip, right? So my sister's been awesome enough to help me out, and I think she's funding so basically she's withheld birthday and Christmas gifts to save up for this, post-graduation trip, which is fantastic, and I love her for it. But right now we're in the phase of figuring out where to go. Right. And for beginners, so I've definitely done a good amount of traveling, but just to extrapolate this out to other people, for beginners, where are some good places to travel to?
I mean, I guess it depends on what you're looking to do. So if it's just like you want a beach vacation, you want to chill out because school's been really intense and you want to take a break, then there's some great places in Mexico or Costa Rica. I think any of those kind of like beach type locations. But if you're looking for something a bit more cultural, it's tough. Southeast Asia is definitely the cheapest place to go. For a beginner, if you've never ever traveled outside of the country, it can be pretty intimidating. And so I think in those situations if you really wanted to go somewhere really different and it's your first time, to tap into some of the expat communities that exist and see if you can get your hands on someone who maybe speaks your language and can at least give you a roadmap of some things to hit up. It's a lot easier to go to those places with a little bit more of a plan if you're a beginner instead of just winging it.
Right.
What communities did you just reference?
Digital nomads. There's like a whole community of kind of expat people who are working overseas and have kind of set up shop in Saigon or Chiang Mai or wherever.
Do you think that people that sort of go from country to country, don't you think they get kind of lonely because they don't have a home base?
Yeah, it's interesting. So one of my best friends, she writes a blog called legalnomads.com.
I've totally heard of that. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, she's one of my good friends. And so we actually met on a press trip in the Dominican Republic, which is an interesting way to travel also. We can get into that in a minute. But she's been traveling now for 8 or 9 years. And for her, every city she goes to now, it's like it's a chance to connect with friends. So she'll be in New York in a few weeks. And so does she get lonely? I mean, I can't speak for her specifically, but I think in every city she's going to now, she has people that she has connected with at some point. And so it's almost like you're constantly on an around the world journey to visit friends. And she does it to research food. So she just spent 6 months in Oaxaca researching mole. Delicious.
I would like to have her life.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not easy, I don't think it by any means. She's definitely not on vacation all the time. This is her life, and it comes with its own unique set of challenges. It's just that she happens to be location independent. And so I think if you can work it out and it's fulfilling, And, I think for me personally, I don't know that I could do it for longer than maybe a year or two.
Yeah.
It's pretty intense.
Also, I ask her a stupid question. Your hubby's there, and I'm guessing you travel with your husband?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
No, I just leave him at home.
Yeah, he's like just in the basement, just fending off spiders by himself.
No, that was like a huge thing, for the person that I was with. Like they had to love travel as much as me. And secondarily, they had to love traveling for food as much as me. So I'm not a big planner, like I said, but I will know every restaurant that I want to go to in a new city.
Okay, that's awesome.
Sure.
And you think it's better to basically go with a group of friends, go solo, like just across the world? Like what's your ideal traveling situation?
Yeah, I think there's benefits to both. I love solo travel for short bursts, periods of time. Yeah, I think you learn a lot about yourself. So I think the best way for me to travel is maybe sometimes to go a few days in advance, do some traveling by myself, and then have people come meet me.
Yeah.
So maybe spend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday rocking it out solo, and then have some other people come in and meet you to experience it. Because I think part of the fun of travel too is having someone to share the stories with and share the experiences and be able to bounce, ideas off of.
People to share the experiences with. I think that's what it's all about. Imagine two people, Bob and Carl, they're roommates. Now, when Bob grows up, he wants to get the job, the house, the white picket fence. His friends call him Boring Bob. And, he's like, hey guys, I'm Boring Bob. Like, that's how he sounds. And then you've got Carl, right? Carl. He wants to travel the world. He wants to go after dreams that will crash and burn. So who's happier? What does the research say? Boring Bob. Don't get me wrong, Bob is boring, but a life of close interpersonal relationships happens when you're in one place, not traveling the world. It's hard to make sustainable close friendships when you're hopping on a plane every 5 seconds. And as Ben Kasnoka, writer, would say, I don't know that many full-time world travelers that are actually happy. But lucky you, travel isn't a zero-sum game, right? Just like anything else, you can sprinkle it on your life in whatever dose you like. But finding the perfect sprinkle, of course, takes a little preference and a little balance. So specifics, right? So, like, what do you think, like, time-wise? What do you think, home versus, travel?
Time-wise, wow, that's tough. I've talked about it a lot with my husband in terms of what would be ideal. And I think 6 months on, 6 months off kind of thing would be pretty great.
Yeah.
And, maybe not in a whole chunk. Maybe it's
three.
Yeah, and it's interesting because for me personally too, like I haven't always had a lot of stability. So from the time I was 17, I added this up the other day. I've moved something like 22 times. And so
I've moved never 22 times. Wait a minute. Why did you move 22 times?
I've just always moved apartments. Like even if I'm in the same city, like I've still moved around a lot, like different neighborhoods.
To be a free spirit.
Yeah. Me and Kevin talk about how making new friends is hard. You had to make new friends 22 times, essentially. Holy shit.
Like some of it was just from like the Lower East Side to the East Village or Queens to Brooklyn. So, the friends still, most of them stick around. Okay. But, and you're right. It is hard to make new friends. And the older you get, the harder it gets. I feel
absolutely. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. So, for me personally, it's tough to say like home base because I have not had that stability really. Yeah. And now I'm 30 now. So the older I'm getting, the more I'm craving that stability, which is funny. Yeah. Before it was like I could have been on the road all the time. And now I'm feeling like, no, I need to set down at least some temporary roots. And I'm sure as soon as I have them, I'll freak the fuck out. But yeah.
What Andrea said can basically boil down to something in science called socio-emotional selectivity theory, right? Thanks to psychologist Laura Carstensen for coming up with that. It's the idea that when we get older, we get more selective about what we do with our time, right? Like when you're 20, you want to meet as many people as possible, but when you're older, you want to watch another goddamn rerun of Seinfeld with someone you actually really, really care about. Over time, we also put up with less.
I feel like there's also just in general a social pressure to settle down. In the same way that right now when we're 20, 21, we're in college, there's a social pressure to be drinking every night and going out all the time. Like you're pressured into a certain lifestyle based on what age you are.
Yeah.
I'm assuming
I brought on someone to my podcast last week who they're a nomadic family. So they're on the road right now with 4 kids, two parents, mom and dad, 4 kids and a dog. And they basically started in Southeast Asia. They worked their way to South Africa, up to Portugal, and now they're road tripping from Michigan to Ecuador. So they're in Mexico right now, outside of Guadalajara, and just have like this amazingly complex, inspiring in a way story. But at the same time, I'm like, there's no way in hell you could get me in an RV with 4 kids.
Yeah.
Like, no, not doing it. No thanks.
Right.
So, I think it's everyone has their own limits of tolerance for that kind of stuff. But you're right, Kevin. I think the older you get, the more and talk about being married. Like this is the first time, I don't know. It's weird in a way to be constantly thinking about someone else's happiness and priorities as well. It's not just all about you. So I think in your 20s, it's kind of like everyone expects you to be really selfish, and then you hit a certain point. And it's not all about you anymore.
I start off by quoting the most dangerous countries list as of 2016. So number 5 is Somalia. Number 4, Afghanistan. Number 3 is Iraq. Number 2, South Sudan. And number 1, Syria. I ask her if any really dangerous countries are still on her list.
Yeah, I have so many places on my list still to go that I'm pretty guaranteed not to get killed in, that they're on the bottom. So I think,
So it's still on your list?
Well,
oh my God.
I mean, I don't know. Okay. It would have to be a really good reason. Like you would have to pry me there with food. That would be the only way.
Yeah.
You would have to tell me like I could never eat this thing ever again, and it's going extinct. Which in Syria actually, like the Aleppo pepper is like really difficult to find now, and it's a huge issue. So it would have to be something like monumental like that. That would get me there. But yeah,
so you're even but you're you're entertaining the possibility. This is something that me and Kevin are not actively doing ever in our entire lives, and for the next 20 years.
I definitely wouldn't recommend it for everyone listening. Like, I'm not advocating that you go to war-torn countries at the moment to eat their food. By the way, Okay. No, I think they're on the bottom. It would of all the places to go.
There's bullets flying left and right, and
as she's running through the street with her peppers. And
it would have to be, maybe I was like saving a species of food of some kind.
Yeah.
That would be the reason.
Yeah, and curious. So when I'm planning a trip, so my sister, the thing is that me and Kevin are very gregarious and whatever, outgoing and all that stuff. But my sister, when it comes to actual travel and adventure, she has bigger balls than me, right? So she'll do she went on a 200-mile bike race without training at all, and I'm like, you're not a real person. Get out of my house. This is insane. And what I'm curious about is that she calibrates more toward culture and food and like sort of the Andrea preferences, and she's willing to make it a little riskier than my palate, right? I want like super super safe, super Hawaii. I need I need 7 security guards right behind me at all times.
I'm way too prissy for anything risky.
Yeah.
We were planning a camping trip with my childhood group of friends, and for me, a camping trip is, I like to stay in like a cottage or a cabin or something, and then we could do all the outdoorsy stuff too. But they were thinking tents, and I put a hard limit on that.
Oh, come on, Kevin. The spiders will stay away.
It would have to be a really cool place for me to do that. Not Wisconsin, where I'm sitting in a tent in like an average campground, because I would much rather stay in my apartment where there's AC.
I don't know. There's like something romantic and like kind of, nice about sitting around a campfire and then like crawling into the tent behind you.
Yeah.
It's not romantic with my...
With your 5 guy friends, there's no romance being had.
I don't even mean like romantic in that sense of like just kind of like, going out into the great unknown, like the romantic idea of it, not actually like the romance of the moment.
It would depend on the location entirely.
Yeah.
Okay. Yosemite might be a good
Andrea is not telling you to make out with your guy friends, essentially. That's
I mean, unless you want to. Unless you,
The world's yours.
I
Kevin.
won't limit myself that much.
You're still in college, right? College is a time of experimentation.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm actually curious. though. How do you figure out which places are no-go zone, no-fly zones, and how do you figure out? Obviously, there's some places that are so safe that, like, if someone is like robbing your wallet, like there's 7 police that swarm him and take him out and imprison him for 7 years, right? Like Japan, Canada. Like Canada, I've been to Canada. They are so goddamn polite. Like I'm just like, dude, please stop being this level of kindness is making me feel uncomfortable. Iceland is actually the safest place you can possibly go to as of 2016. So I'm wondering, how do you figure out, like, what do you do, like, on the back end to figure out, okay, which places should I go to and which places might I find a bullet having a date with my chest?
Well,
right?
I mean, I think, there's obviously the government recommendations of what places are safe, but I think a lot of it is looking at, I think sometimes we get scared to go places because of the media telling us that they're unsafe. Like Mexico is a perfect example, right? Are parts of Mexico unsafe? Absolutely. You probably don't want to go hang out in Juarez anytime soon. But are other places completely fine? Really quick,
have you seen the movie Sicario?
I have not, no.
Oh, well, it's about like not a DEA agent, but some sort of police officer or whatever, and they go into Juarez to extract a high-profile criminal. And there's this really long scene where it's like a super long sequence where they just drive into Juarez, and it shows kind of what it's like there. And I watched that movie, and my first thought afterwards was like, okay, I'm not going to Mexico now at this point.
Yeah, what's interesting is that I don't have a 3D viewpoint on these countries. Like, I am very much I'm in Kevin's camp. It's very easy for me to be like, oh, well, Nancy Grace said, I don't listen to Nancy Grace, but just, Nancy Grace said, don't go to Mexico. I'm never going to go to Mexico ever again. Or you see a movie and it's bad. It's depicted badly there. And you're like, okay, I'm never going to go there again. So I guess, how do you get this sort of 3D viewpoint, right? So you have government recommendations. Where can you find that at, by the way?
I think we can link to it. I think you can just go, you can do travel warnings by country. If you Google that, and then it should pop up the national, Department of National Defense, or I don't know, one of those ones. I forget which one puts it out. But yeah, so I think, paying attention to just what is going on in that country, like, Turkey is generally fine right now. Would you want to go to Turkey this week? Maybe not. So I think it's just being a little bit in tune and not checking only American news sources is a good way to start, like Al Jazeera, BBC. I've never actively thought, is this place so dangerous that I can't go? And I think the other thing too is, if you are going to a place like India, right, knowing the cultural norms there. So women, you shouldn't dress scantily. There's all these kinds of rules. So knowing the culture of what you're getting into generally helps keep you safer than just going willy-nilly. And actually, when I was in India, I was there with another girl. I did a kind of a small tour for part of it, and she was like wearing mini skirts and tank tops, and she was getting looked at and grabbed, and she was really offended by that. But at the same time, it's like, those are things that you need to know before you go. And there are so many resources now and so many travel bloggers. And I would say too, if you are going to a place where you think might be dangerous, try to seek out some people who've written about that. Look up some bloggers, or look up some people who are living there and talking about that in a public forum, and reach out to them on Twitter, send them a Facebook message or whatever. So that's a good way, I think, is to connect with people who are on the ground there and can give you an honest viewpoint instead of through the media.
Cool. And any recommended bloggers to check out?
Oh man, I mean, Legal Nomads is great if you're going to Southeast Asia. She's, pretty much written about Vietnam and Thailand, parts of Thailand. She has some great resources. There's someone else called Nomadic Matt who does a lot of really great work. Chris Gillibo is another one are you guys familiar with him?
Yeah, he's nuts. Yeah.
So basically, for everyone who's listening who doesn't know him, he had a mission to see every country in the world before the time he turned 35.
Including
North Korea.
Yeah, including North Korea, Syria, and all those I just listed off. But yeah.
So he's blogged extensively, and speaking too about travel deals, he has a whole site dedicated to how to get the best points and all that kind of stuff. So those are some good places to start. And I think all of those ones will have links to other resources as well. But really, just kind of looking, Google is such a great tool these days. It can tell you so much and get you in contact with so many people. So I think those are the best ways.
Cool. Thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Awesome. You too. Thanks, Andrea.
Bye.
This episode was co-hosted by Kevin Sanji. Special guest was Andrea Wien. Feedback was by Vaishali Sundarajan. Music is by Electric Mantis. If you like that episode, please tell a friend. And if your friend is Oprah, please, Jesus Christ, tell her. Also, we've got an email list. If you want to get updates from when the show comes out right in your inbox and get all the lessons from season 1 in 20 minutes, plus bonus goodies, sign up at realtalkstudio.com/insider. Again, that's realtalkstudio.com/insider. My name's Monish. This is Real Talk, signing off.